Hello, class. This is the discussion question 1 for week 2. Explain why do you think that Augustine places so much significance on the stilling of a pear? What does he learn from his transgressions, and can you personally relate to this experience? Augustine makes his confession of the pear as a Christian, looking back to the days when he lived a life in disregard to God. Not only is he a Christian, but he's about 45 years of age. The significance of the event carries a lot more weight to him as he's looking back in his memories, and he's trying to come to grips with his behavior at the time. In attempting to simply, it is tempting to dismiss his story as merely a time of folly and youthful indulgence that does not need such deep reflection. But for Augustine, this marks a time of life when he lived without concern for God and let his own passions control his actions. As he begins to reflect, remember, he dismantles his memory and he kind of probes deeply and tries to figure out exactly what motivated him and why he stole the pears and why he did it with friends. And he ultimately comes up with a decision that it was out of a desire and a motivation to kind of go along with the crowd, to do what his friends were doing. It seemed fun to do it with your friends, to be bad in company. He does recognize that if he was by himself, that he would not have done it. But since he was with his friends and they were all in the same line of thinking, that this kind of encouraged him to go ahead and go along with the crowd. And it disturbed him, and he feels very just shocked and regretful that he chose to make these decisions. And even after the fact in the story, they laughed about it. They laughed that they didn't get caught. The person who owned the pear tree didn't find out who it was, and they didn't obviously confess. They hid that knowledge from the person, and he just feels really torn. He never needed the fruit. He didn't want to eat the fruit. When he ate it, he states that all he tasted was his own sin. So it was something that he did merely for the fact of being bad, and he knew it, and was encouraged by his friends. And I think that's what really disturbs him, how evil he was being at that time. I think for me, when I was reflecting, one of the things that I came to my mind when I was reflecting on reading this passage, or excuse me, this part of the story of Confessions, was Psalm 1. Psalm 1 is a really good description of kind of the process that he went through. It states that blessed is the one who does not walk in step with the wicked, or stand in the way that sinners take, or sit in the company of mockers, but whose delight is in the law of the Lord, and who meditates on his law day and night. That person is like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season, and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever they do prospers. Not so the wicked. They are like chaff that the wind blows away. Therefore the wicked will not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the assembly of the righteous. For the Lord watches over the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked leads to destruction. So in Psalm 1, it clearly states that if you go along with the wicked, there will be judgment. If you stay with God and listen to his commandments, you will be blessed. And I think that's kind of what Augustine is trying to get at through his story, that he went along with the crowd, and it cost him. And he's full of regret, but he thanks God for forgiving him and giving him grace. And I think that's really relatable. I've made my own share of mistakes, and I think that this confession of Augustine is a confession that we all can stand by. Thanks for listening.